Let's take a look at something that sometimes gives people a little bit of trouble, which is applying decals to your model. Now, you see, I've pulled a model out. I pulled out a German tank, and what I've done is, one of the most important things about decaling is preparation of the model. And the trouble that people have sometimes with decaling is they don't prep the model properly. And when I say that, what I'm talking about is if you look at this tank model, it almost appears like the turret and the body of the tank are different colors. They're actually not. These are both painted with Tamiya German gray. I think it's XF63 maybe, one of those colors. And what I've done is I've prepped the turret for the decals by shooting it with a gloss coat. Why put a gloss coat on it? The gloss coat basically smooths the surface of the model down so that the carrier film or the clear sheet blends into it. If you look at this flat color on the bottom, same color, but what happens is the light does not reflect off the flat color because it's kind of a granular surface. When you put a spray coat on and it's a flat color, it's not smooth. It's kind of grainy. You can't see it, but it isn't. And that's why it looks flat, because the light doesn't reflect off it. When I put a gloss coat onto this model, the light reflects off of it so that it looks different. When I flat coat this, they're going to look the same again. The reason I put the gloss coat on is so that the clear film that's around some of the decals will blend into that gloss coat. And when it's done, I'll put a flat coat on it, and hopefully all that color or all the clear should disappear so that it looks painted on. On an actual German tank or an American tank or an airplane, the markings are painted on by hand usually, or with a stencil. They spray them on, but they're painted. So you want it to look like it's painted on and not a decal that has clear film around it. So that's the reason we clear coat. And I use the Tamiya clear coat. And what we'll do is we'll take a look now at how to put a decal on. So we're going to put some decals on the turret of the Tiger tank here. And I have my decals. Very important to grab your instructions. And I picked out this gray paint scheme, like on the box of the kit. And what I'm going to do is put the German cross and the tank numbers on the side of the turret. The tools that I'm basically going to use will be Walther Salva set. And you can use any kind of decal setting solution you want. I like the Walther Salva set. It's a railroad product actually, but I like it because it's not overly strong. Some decal solutions are really strong and they'll just eat your decals up. But I like this. You're going to need a straight edge knife. You're going to need a ruler or a straight edge of some sort to cut the decals out. A little tub of water to dip your decal in, and the model. And the other thing I need, and I'm going to grab it over here, are some paper towels just to sop up the water from the decal. Grab them right here. We'll put those over here. All right, so I look at the pictures here, and I think what we'll do is we'll start out on the back end with the numbers on the tank, number 332. So I'll look on my sheet, and it's right here. And I'm going to take my straight edge. And what I like to do is I like to get as close to the decal as I can so that I cut down the amount of that clear film or carrier film that shows. So I just straight edge it out. And be very careful not to cut into any of the other decals on the sheet. And one other tool that comes in handy would be a nice pair of tweezers to hold the decal while you dip it in the water. So I'm going to take this decal. First I'm just going to kind of look at where it goes, which is right center on the back here. I'll dip it in water and we'll let it sit in the water for maybe about 30 seconds or so and get nice and wet. And I'm going to move this here so I can see what I'm doing. And while you wait, you can basically cut out another decal. And it looks like there's crosses number 7 on either side of the back end. So I'm going to cut one of these out. And take our tweezers and check this one that's in the water. If I can get a hold of him. I like to just kind of push a little bit on the decal, and I think it needs a little more time in the water. Okay, so I've pulled my decal out of the water, and it's loosened up from the carrier film or from the paper. And what I do is I take the model and I just take my finger with a little bit of water on it and put some water where the decal goes. The reason I do that is so that I can move it around before I place it into the final position. So I just take this and I slide that off. And you can see it's crooked, but the water underneath gives me the ability, and don't be afraid to put water on there, gives me the ability to move the decal around. Now, once I find that it's in the right position, and pardon me while I look at it here, what I do then is I take a paper towel, and I like to wet the paper towel just a little bit, just to make it damp. And I very carefully, and this is important, if you don't want to disturb where the decal is, I get very particular about this. I want to make sure it's nice and straight. When you get that decal into the position where you want it, you take your paper towel and you sit your finger next to it. Don't just go right down on the decal. Just roll your finger or roll the paper towel down over the decal so it doesn't move. In other words, I take this and I just kind of press down. And what that does is that removes any of the water from underneath of the decal and it sets it in place. And I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, it looks a little bit crooked, but I've already pressed it down. What you can do is you can take a little bit of water on your finger, I'm going to move that, and just put a whole bunch of water on top of it and let it get under the decal, and you can move it around again. Okay? It still moves. So you can reposition the decal. Now, you can do that all the way up until the point where you put the set on. Once you put your decal set on, you can't move it anymore. But now I'm kind of happy with where it is. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to very carefully press down on it. And that looks pretty good to me, I think. I can see. So the last step would be to take some of this decal set. And it comes with a brush. What I like to do is I like to just take a little bit of the decal set off of the brush on my paper towel so there's not a ton on there. And then just wipe it over the decal. Now, on a flat surface, this doesn't matter too much, but when you get into surfaces where there's little bumps and there's little rivets and things and you want that decal to set over top of it, that's when you use the decal set. You put it on there and you don't touch it after that. You let the decal set do its thing. Now, it's going to make you crazy because you're going to want to touch the decal, but you can't. You put the decal on, you put decal set on it, and just let the solvent soak the decal down over the detail. And you'll know when it's dry, you'll see that it's down over the detail. Then you can go back and press down on it a little bit, or if there's bubbles, you can take a knife and pop the bubble, put a little bit of decal solution on it and press it down. So that's basically how to put a decal on. And you can notice that you don't see a whole lot of that clear carrier film around the decal because we did the gloss coat. If I had put that decal on here, you would see it would silver all around it and you would see all the clear carrier film. So I have another decal in here. And what I'm going to do is pop this one on. Same thing, move it around to where I think it looks good. And do the exact same thing. Take my paper towel, hit it, and I'm going to go ahead and put the decals on the sides, finish the back, and then we'll go on to clear coating over that with a flat coat so you can see how it finishes up. Now we're going to do one of the decals that's going to go over a detail on the tank. So when I put this decal on, I'm going to kind of press it down, and then I'm going to use the decal solvent over it where it intercepts this vision portal on the side of the tank. Give you an idea of why you use solvent or setting solution. I pull the decal out here. Sometimes these guys are hard to get out of the water. sure it's loose. We'll put a little bit of water right there. I'm going to slide the decal off. And I'm looking at my picture to make sure I have it in the right spot. I don't know if you can see, but it sits right up over this portal. So what I'm going to do, this is kind of important on things like airplanes where there's a lot of rivets and panel lines. You have to have the decal sit down in it so it looks painted on. So I'm going to press down on this thing. Oop. As it comes off onto my paper towel. Don't worry if this happens. If it comes off, you can put it right back on. A little bit of water. Put them on there. And what I'll do is, I'm just going to sop up. The idea here is just to get rid of the excess water. But you can see that decal sits up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take the decal solvent and just put it right over that area. Sop it down really good. And then I'm going to reposition this. And once you get it into position and you put that solvent on it, don't touch it. Let it go. You're going to be really tempted to take a paper towel and push down on it, whatever. Don't do it. Just let it sit on its side. Let the decal do its, let the solvent do its work. It will soften the decal up and suck it down over the detail. Don't touch it. So we'll come back and look at that after it's done.